room was this temperature detector that was on the ceiling of the room, and all night long it would flash white lights. The same kind of white light you see on towers. These mind control lights, they use them for subliminal messaging. And so what I did was I just put a 5-ounce orgone I had with me, and I put it on the bedstand beside my bed. And I asked the Lord to reverse the intended effects of this light. I knew it was a subliminal message lighting, flashing thing. And so what that would do is if they were trying to dumb me down to where I wouldn't do anything while I was there, that it would have the reverse effects by making me more motivated to get work done while I was there. And so I just asked the Lord to reverse the effects of whatever they were trying to do. You know, the difference between this trip and the one I had last year was last year I snuck out, thinking, okay, if I don't tell anybody I'm going, no one knows I'm gone, and the government won't know I'm gone, and they won't harass and intimidate me. Well, they were on my butt the whole time I was out there. This year, I just said, hey, I'm going on a road trip, and it empowered the Lord's people to pray, and so all of their plans were just tossed out the window. I went on the offensive this time, and instead of being fried with tech weapons and having holographic rabbits shot underneath my car to try to make me wreck and everything, poisoning my food in restaurants and everything else they came up with, nothing happened this year. It was totally peaceful. You know, just going on the offensive and asking the Lord to send them all into derision, asking the Lord that whatever their plans were would come to naught, that the vehicles they were going to use to follow me around would malfunction, that the tech weapons they were going to try to use against me would malfunction and break down and not work, that anyone sent to harass or intimidate me, their mode of transportation to get to me would malfunction, and they would be in such derision their plans would be abandoned. I had it down this year, you know, after last year and witnessing everything they did and they can do. I'll tell you what, I just went on the offensive this year, and the Warriors people listening to this program that knew I was going, they were praying as well, and so it was just a huge difference. I call last year my learning curve. Because it definitely taught me you don't have to sit back and be on the defensive all the time. We're warriors. Let's get on the offensive. Let's prevent them from doing anything. And so that's what happened, and that's what we did. And I had a peaceful time. I had a great vacation. You know, we got out over 400 orgone between here and New Jersey, and that's an awful lot of orgone. 400 just on this trip alone, and probably one of the smallest trips I've had. And so one of the interesting things that I did experience while I was out there, so we've talked about these black-eyed people. I think on my list a while ago I'd sent out an article, I think Rick over at stargods.org, he's got this article on his website about black-eyed people. And they have all black in their eyes. There's no white. You know, like normally you have your pupils, then you have the white area of your eyes. These are black-eyed people, don't have any whites in their eyes. And it had been a long time since I read that article, but as I'm standing in the hotel, this little girl walked up to me, and she wanted to ask me a question, just a typical little girl. She was like 7 or 8 years old, and the first thing I noticed was her eyes were completely black. Just snake slit eyes. That was the first thing I noticed, was the snake slit. And then the second thing was they were completely black. And I must have given her some kind of a look or expression or something, because she automatically detected that I recognized her eyes. And so at that point she kind of bowed her head to hide her eyes from me and just look up, barely look up, like so she could see what I was saying to her or whatever. But that was wild. That's the first time I've seen it. Just a person with completely black eyes, no whites in them whatsoever. Black-eyed people. And that's some kind of form of hybrid. Different variations of hybrids walking on the earth right now. And that definitely being one of them. The black-eyed people. You know, earlier this year I was planning to go to D.C. I was going to do that last spring, earlier this year in the spring. And one of our warriors stood up to get that area done, and so I didn't have to go to D.C. this year. And so I'm glad I got to finish the dots and go all the way to the New Jersey border with the Oregon, just so we have this whole country covered practically, you know. It's a long way. I know we've got warriors in their own states getting their own areas, as the Lord leads them to do. Get your neighborhoods, get your towns, try to get your cities. It's a lot of work, you know. It is just a lot of work. Getting your own area isn't that much. when you start to plan and branch out to get other areas. Because not only are you on the defensive, you're on the offensive as well. It's a dual war. You're doing both. You know, orgone is a toxic. It's a poison to the aliens. It will kill them. If you get it in water supplies that they're using, it will kill them. It will crash their UFOs. Everything about them is dark, dead, orgone negative energy. And when you put positive living energy in that, it will attack and destroy the dead energy. And so I find it interesting because we know they're spiritual beings to begin with, but these vehicles that they're flying, these UFOs, are some kind of spiritual vehicles as well, because for energy to be able to destroy them, I just find that fascinating. And I'm not a scientist or anything like that. But I find it interesting that so many of these UFOs have been seen hovering over water with these tubes. They're pulling our water into their UFOs. I don't know if they're putting them in tanks to take somewhere, or if water is like a gas to UFOs, if they're running on water. I don't know what it is with the water thing. I know that they bathe in it and stuff like that. They don't drink it to survive like we do, but they bathe in it because what they do is they cut up human body parts and put it in vats of water, and then they soak in it, and they ingest the nutrients of that water through their skin. I know it's disgusting. It's part of what they were doing at Dulce, and why I spent so much time at Dulce Base last year. And so if you know of any underground bases in your area, one of the things you want to do is target any lakes or rivers that are in the area, because that's their water supply. They have to have water to survive, just like we do. They don't drink it to survive, but they have to have it. And so that's what you want to do is target, get orgone in lakes and rivers as much as possible. That won't hurt humans. Orgone doesn't hurt humans at all. In fact, it'll make the water a lot better. It's just toxic to them. It's toxic to evil beings. And so, just a heads up on that. One of the things people just don't understand is that how much of a weapon and how much of Bible prophecy is already into play at this point in time. I've seen where the orgone is penetrating the atmosphere, and eventually it's going to ground Satan's forces to the earth. They're going to have to leave space. And that pretty much goes along with Revelation chapter 12, with Michael himself and his angels going to war against Satan, and they're cast out of heaven. And then they come down to earth, and then Satan's attention turns towards the Lord's people, turns towards Israel, the Lord's people, where he seeks his revenge against the Lord's people. And that actually lining up with the Antichrist war on the saints at that time. I don't know if there's a literal fight in space between Michael and his angels, or if that was symbolic of what was going to happen, but I do know that the orgone is penetrating the atmosphere, and that it's burning and killing them in the atmosphere. And that we already brought down the Capricorn back in March. That satellite they said they had to blow up before it hit the Earth, that was all a lie. We had crashed their Capricorn. It had to come out of space, and the only reason they were going to shoot it was to make sure that nobody could find it. They didn't want it crashing anywhere on Earth. And I'm not sure how much of it would have even been left. It was a big boulder.